Ron Grisanti. I want to welcome everyone this evening for participating in our webinar. We know that a lot of you have busy schedules, and we just want to thank you for taking the time at 9 o'clock to participate. We have people on the West Coast that it's a 3-hour difference, and obviously we have people internationally that may be in the wee hours of the evening. But we want to just thank everyone again. And what I want to do first is I want to let everyone know that tonight's presentation is going to be by both a good colleague and a great friend of mine, Rick Bramus. Rick is extremely knowledgeable on the topic of what we're going to be discussing this evening, and he's someone who has been instrumental in not only helping my wife and I, but also helping many of my patients. And what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and give the reins to Rick and have Rick give a little background on himself. Rick, you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, just a little background, just so people know who you are and you know what you have to offer and everything. And then we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Dr. Grisanti. I've got a very diverse background in the fitness field. In high school, I rode for the Detroit Yacht Club. I was a gymnast in college, U.S. Army coach for 3 years. I owned the first Gold's Gym in South Carolina. Was a very competitive powerlifter bodybuilder, winning major events. Turned my attention to the beast market. Was one of the first men in the late 80s, early 90s certified to teach step, internationally certified body pump, all the different classes, spinning classes. I was the first in South Carolina to teach those classes. But the last 10 years, I've really addressed my focus on the obese market. You know, what was going wrong? Why aren't people losing weight? Even with the so-called aerobic craze, and when I was teaching these classes, people still weren't losing. So the last 10 years, I've really focused on the obese market, and I developed a program that seems to be just fantastic, just working for all my clients.
Great.
All right.
Let's go ahead and get started, Rick. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I know it's late for some of you, so I'm going to try to get through this at a good clip. What I'd like to do is to begin by explaining exactly what I'd like you to take home from this webinar, and I'll finish with the same thought process. Once you grasp that gaining and losing weight is mostly the result of how foods interact with hormones and enzymes, as the body's regulated by these, then exercise can be put into perspective. I think we can go to that next slide, Dr. Sonny. And what I mean by that on exercise is why exercise at all, or how much do you really need, and what type of exercise will benefit you most based on your needs. So what I want to do first is take a moment to really impress on you how potent hormones are. I really believe most people intuitively understand this, but they tend to throw this information at the wayside when it comes to weight loss. I don't know why. I guess it's a result of the media saturation with the calories in and calories out hypothesis. So let me ask you a question. Do we grow as a result of how much we eat as a child? I'm sure you're going to say no. We grow due to the specific hormone, growth hormone. Otherwise, those who ate the most would be the biggest, the tallest, and so on. And this makes sense to most people. Another example that will help you understand how food and energy is partitioned by the body under the influence of our hormones. I'm going to give you a hypothetical, and I use this one a lot. Fraternal twins, let's assume one is a male and one's a female, and that they're both eating basically the same diet in and day out that mom's making for them. What happens when these twins reach puberty? Well, the male takes the nutrients he's eating and partitions them into muscle. The female takes these same nutrients and partitions them into fat in specific areas. We have no control over this. This partitioning is a result of hormonal influence. One more. Estrogen loss may result in weight gain for women. My wife had a hysterectomy. She gained weight regardless of no change in our diet. So if someone tells you it's all about how much food you take and they don't have a clue to how complex the human organism is. And the next slide, please, doctor. Now let me make the point more clear. Do you believe that your body responds to 1,500 calories of sugar the same way it responds to 1,500 calories of steak and vegetables? I think most of you would say no, even if you did not completely understand why. The fact is, it's not as much about how much you eat as it is what those calories are comprised of. So knowing how potent hormones are, the next slide's a little picture talking about insulin. Let's talk about insulin. If your daily consumption of sugars, especially high fructose corn syrup from drinks, is high and your intake of carbohydrates is high, with no fiber due to all the processing today, if your snacks are loaded with sugar and fruit, even if it's only 90 calories, then you're stimulating fat storage. You see, the sugar's got to be dealt with right away by the body as it's toxic to the tissues, especially the endothelium of the arteries. Insulin will force all the excess sugar that this sedentary person is taking in and store it as fat. What's worse, and this is what most people really don't understand, what's worse about insulin, it also keeps pushing these fatty acids that are circulating in the blood for potential energy use back into the fat cell, as the sugars got to be addressed first. Now, as a result, if much of what we're eating is being locked away in the fat cells due to this high carb, high sugar diets we're consuming, then we're also left with very little energy available for our muscles and organs. And this is why diabetics or pre-diabetics and people that are overweight feel like they have no energy. They really don't. They're not understanding that because they're eating the wrong food, this food's being partitioned into the fat cell. It's like a leaky gas tank. You keep filling up the car, wondering where the energy's going. It's being stored in fat. So this is why they're still hungry. This results in hunger, which leads to more eating, which leads to more fat storage if we keep eating the same foods. And we all know that it just becomes a vicious cycle. Now remember, the body has another response to a dwindling energy supply. It can slow down all functions, conserving energy right at the cellular level, creating a feeling of laziness. So now the problem is you're both hungry and lazy as a result of abusing the pancreas with this excess sugar and carbs. Now, I want to touch base on another calorie myth. This is one I actually touched base with author Gary Taubes of Good Calories and Bad Calories. You might be familiar with the book. And I actually corresponded with him on this point I'm going to make here. And again, we've all heard the recommendation for losing weight. Simply reduce our daily caloric intake by 100 calories and we'll slowly lose weight. Well, I'm going to explain to you why this theory just doesn't add up. If you believe that this simple formula works for losing weight, reduce 100 calories daily, then the inverse should also hold true. And that means if we were to take in an extra 100 calories a day, we would gradually gain weight. This also means at the end of just one decade, we would all be morbidly obese, as this example would add up to approximately 10 pounds each year or 100 pounds at the end of 10 years. And can you imagine if it was 500 calories a day? Now, I'll argue with anybody that most of us easily take in more calories than we need. And this number could easily be as much as 500 calories more than we need each day. So here's a question I pondered for many years. How is it even possible to calculate within the tolerances of a couple hundred calories our intake of these calories to our expenditure? And I'll argue that it's not possible. And Gary Taubes was the first one I've ever seen to put this thought in writing. And that's why I had to correspond with him. I said, for decades I've been saying this 100 calorie just can't work because there's no way we can even calculate that. Our bodies are not machines consistently taking in energy and using this energy at a steady rate. Remember what we just talked about. The human body is a miraculous organism. It's able to slow down energy output or speed it up in response to enzymes and hormones or other influences. Our bodies can take in nutrients and store them as fat. It can actually make them unavailable for use. Our metabolic rate can go up in response to being cold or to stimulants or to drugs or foods such as protein. So the rate at which we use energy changes throughout the day and cannot be calculated within such tolerances. Even if our intake of calories based on many charts available were accurate, and I know they're not, this tolerance of 100 calories, it just doesn't work. The efficiency of the digestive system, how foods are cooked, and many other variables come into play. So the point is this: the body's propensity to store foods as fat are based more on the makeup of these foods, not empirically on the total calories of these foods.
That's a good point.
So simply controlling blood sugars, I think the next slide, Dr. Zarnik, please, will keep the insulin levels normal, allowing for fatty acids to not only circulate in the blood, but be made available for use by every cell in the body for energy. So again, it may sound simplistic, but the answer to most weight loss problems outside the biochemical glitches of the body, such as thyroid, and that's another story, is simply a matter of being able to access the fat reserves for energy. And we do this by eliminating the foods that stimulate the body to produce excessive amounts of insulin. So you've got to quit counting calories and pay more attention to what you eat. You've got to add good fats, including saturated fats, back into your diet, as fats do not stimulate insulin, yet give us energy. And by the way, you need saturated fats for all your important hormones such as testosterone and estrogen. And now, I know some of you still may not be familiar with all the evidence coming out everywhere about the importance of saturated fats, as most of us, I know we've been indoctrinated into the bashing, the theme of every media outlet out there about saturated fats being bad, but a great source to help you make sense of the fact, what I'm telling you, that the saturated fats are good for you, and that the corn oil and soy oils and the other oils are really the culprit, as they oxidize very fast. And this is what all the fast food restaurants have been using for 5 decades now. So again, go to the next slide, Doctor. I think I put the book on there. This is a great book for those of you, and he puts this in layman's terms and really talks about all the research in there, and he documents it all too. I mean, I've seen all the studies, Dr. Kazani and I, and we understand the importance of it, but he actually documents it all right there for you in layman's terms. So this is a great book to back up what I'm telling you about saturated fats.
Great.
Okay. Now keep in mind also the fats will satisfy you, help you feel full when adding these good fats back into your diet, along with more fiber and protein. Let me see that next slide, Doctor. I think I've got the slide of a plate of food, so I can make another real impressive point. So let's take this 1,500 calories I was talking about in the beginning again, of donuts and as opposed to the steak and the vegetables, and make sense of a typical meal and how there can be a big difference in fat storage and fat loss based on what these calories are comprised of. And this is what I use for my clients and for Dr. Rosani's patients. If we drop down to about a 1,500 calorie diet, and it's high carb still, and it's got sugar in it, it's still going to equal fat deposition. You're not going to see weight loss, you're going to see weight gain. You're not going to have energy because the percentage probably is still too high in sugars and carbohydrates. And now what happens, the worst thing you can do to one of these points on my bullets is, if you reduce your calories to even 1,500 calories and you're not getting them all because, say, a big percentage of them is being stored as fat, and you add exercise to the mix, now you're really in trouble. This produces stress to the body, and it's probably producing stress to a person that's already stressed out. The body will try to hoard the fat. Besides depositing the fat from the sugar they're eating, they're going to have no energy to work out. The body may become in a catabolic state. Cortisol is produced because of this stress, producing even more weight gain. So you see, this 1,500 calories may sound like a lot to some people, but if the composition of the calories isn't right, you can still gain weight and have no energy. Now let me give you the other example. If that 1,500 calories, 3 good meals a day, 500 each, and they consist of protein and veggies, we're not even going to talk about fruit or anything else in it right now, you could actually be getting 2,000 calories a day. Why? Because now the fatty acids that are circulating from the fat cells, and they're always going back and forth. A lot of people think they're locked up in the fat cell like a locker. They're not. They're always going back and forth, but they're being pushed back in because of insulin. So say you're on a 1,500 calorie diet now. You're doing the right thing. All your meals are really clean. You really, on a 2,000 calorie, I'm rounding out the numbers because now if you do need more energy, if you start exercising, that energy is coming from these fatty acids that are circulating. I hope this makes sense, and a lot of my clients and our patients, we talk about this all the time. This is what we're really after. So the big difference in these two meals is if you go too low on calories and it's the wrong composition still, you're in trouble. But if you drop your caloric intake to a sufficient number to handle your basal metabolic rate and a little bit of activity, and now you have the exercise in, the body's going to retrieve these fatty acids. It's going to use them for energy. So you've got, remember, you've got stored energy in your own body as body fat. But most people aren't accessing that because they're eating wrong. And to me, this is a perfect example.
Good.
Okay, now I could go on and on about sugar in the diet destroying our health, especially high fructose corn syrup, but we're limited by time. But let me tell you what else happens to excess sugar. And you may never have heard of this. It combines with the protein molecule because there's just so much of it in a process called glycation. This ages us by breaking down the collagen in our skin and tissues. This has disastrous effects on our organs and skin. In the skin, it manifests itself as wrinkles, but in the organs, it destroys these tissues for the heart, for the kidneys. So let's go on to my forte. I think the next slide there. So why should we exercise? I mean, we know we can lose weight if we eat right. But let me first define exercise, the difference in activity and exercise. This is real important because the message out there still is become active. But I define exercise as an activity that is of sufficient effort or challenging enough to elicit an adaptive response by the body. Some physiological parameter of the body's got to improve. So you see, if it's not challenging, there's no reason or no stimulus for the body to act on to improve, whether it's strength, speed, endurance. Activity just won't get you there. So I always make the point, yeah, if you're already in shape, being active may keep you there, but being active today isn't what it was for our forefathers. Remember, we're just our forefathers were a more active society. We're not. And if we were more active like our forefathers doing the type of challenging work that's now eliminated, as a part of most Americans' daily lifestyles, we may not need to exercise. So again, why exercise? Let me see what the next slide is, Dr. Zani. I always make the point, if right now to my clients, if the greater influence to losing weight is the diet, then this overemphasis on exercise may be having a negative effect on weight loss, as I was just talking about, because if you're exercising while the fat stores are locked up, it may only serve to make you even hungrier. You're going to be lazy and you're still going to deposit fat. So the answer is simple. It's to create an environment in the body where the fat stores are available for use for energy. Now if we add exercise into the weight loss protocol, it's going to be a good way to reduce the fat stores and then weight. So the point I always make is exercise will only accelerate fat loss when the insulin remains low. Now some of my clients, believe it or not, I mean, they'll get stronger. I got thousands of them over the years. In the beginning, they get stronger. They may look a little better if they're eating halfway decent, not creating more stress. But I have a lot of them don't lose weight in the beginning. And I don't harp on it. I just give them the knowledge, and I keep reinforcing it because I don't want to bring them down about it, because the ones are in the habit of doing something good with the good exercise anyway. But finally, when they realize it's the carbohydrates and they keep reducing the sugar and carbs, then they will start to see weight loss. So I've got a lot of ex-athletes in their 30s and that, ex-football players. They come in, they got big bellies on them, and I'll get them stronger in the beginning, but they won't lose the weight till they change their eating habits. So what kind of exercise is most effective if we're going to help in losing this body fat? I always make the point that a practical, effective exercise approach to health and fitness is simply to focus on muscle retention and even adding a few pounds of muscle. I think most of us know skeletal muscle plays a key biological role in keeping the body strong, functional, and healthy. Obviously, muscle is needed for physical movement. Muscle, though, here's the important fact. Muscle is where fats and sugars are shuttled and used for energy. That's where they're metabolized. Muscle keeps the body from becoming insulin sensitive or diabetic also. So I've been explaining for years that resistance exercise is a great way to add exercise, especially to a limited schedule. We'll be talking about that in my program. So here's what is important for the overweight, very deconditioned folks. It can be safely performed by all age groups and fitness levels, and to me it's more beneficial to overall fitness than any other exercise protocol, especially for the deconditioned overweight. Resistance training delivers improvements in strength, endurance, flexibility, conditioning, will tone your muscles. It actually improves cardiovascular parameters, because remember, anything that challenges the heart and lungs is cardio. We get this mixed up all the time, thinking we have to do aerobics. Resistance training is a great stress reliever. What I like about it, it limits repetitive activity on joints and minimizes oxidation. And oxidation is what ages us due to free radicals. Resistance training, and this is important, a lot of trainers don't understand this, also taps into the fat stores to supply the energy for protein synthesis. I know this is a science or a technical term, but this is the recovery process from weight training. and it's called protein synthesis of the contractile fibers. And the body needs a lot of energy when you challenge the muscles to recover from. And this is why weight training is so effective. The energy needs of protein synthesis on the recovery days. Again, most trainers are not familiar with the energy needs of this process. And this is what we talk about when we're speaking about stepping up the metabolism. The energy needs of this process are above the normal daily energy needs. So therefore, the body's going to tap into the fat stores for energy to recover from this process if the sugar is kept low in the diet. So a lot of the trainers spend way too much time what I call in endurance training because that's mostly what they know. That's what their background. And yeah, you're burning calories during the workout, but it has a very low post-metabolic burn. And we're going to talk about this a little more, but the problem with all this endurance activity, it's just too challenging for the overweight market. It's too much drudgery for them in the beginning. So the next slide, please, Doctor. The big news I always tell everybody is that the science and my decades of experience with thousands of clients has demonstrated that the benefits of resistance exercise can be achieved with just 2 workouts a week. And just to give you a little background if you need it, you can pull out any edition of the Designing Resistance Training Program. It's a collegiate level book by Fleck and Kramer, and you'll find all kinds of studies dating back to the 70s confirming that 2 workouts are pretty effective at producing muscle strength and maintaining it. So again, the traditional approach to losing weight is on the amount of calories you burn while working out and limiting the darn calories you take in. I developed a program called 2 Days to Fitness, and my program does a 180 from the other programs. I emphasize plenty of the right kind of foods, as we've been talking about, and an exercise program that challenges just the largest muscles of the body to evoke this hormonal response that will step up the metabolism. And again, this process is called protein synthesis of the contractile fibers. Now, this takes place again during the recovery process. Large amounts of fats will be recruited to provide this energy for this process, which is to maintain or synthesize muscle. And this can go on 7 days a week, even when you're not exercising. And it can be done with only 2 workouts a week. Now, the typical game plan that you hear all the time about walking or riding an exercise bike for 30 to 60 minutes daily, along with a few little toning exercises, I call them weenie exercises, they're probably not going to do the job. Now, you might get a little results, and if you do, it'll be that usually the result, I see people in the gym for hours, so it's going to cost them a tremendous amount of time and energy, which eventually leads to most people giving it up in weight gain. So my 2 Days to Fitness program explains why high-intensity, short-duration exercise has a stimulating effect on the metabolism, where the body perceives long-duration workouts as an unrelenting stressor. It's actually a cue to shut down metabolic activity and hormonal output to conserve energy, like I've been talking about. This is the same shutdown caused by dieting too severely, or, these low-calorie diets or even fasting. So my workouts are designed to be short and invigorating, not overwhelming, long, and fatiguing. And again, plenty of research confirms that 2 sessions a week will give you a reasonable level of fitness for the time invested. And as importantly, 2 workouts a week will start you on the path to consistency. But the high repetition, high volume workouts are usually ineffective at promoting any kind of health and fitness gains. Minimum gains of muscular strength and endurance, little cardiorespiratory condition can be expected when used the smaller muscles of the body. And the downside of repetitive movements is that they usually lead to overuse injuries and frustration over nominal results. So my 2-day training program, as you can see on the slide there, time is still the most relative factor for people not exercising. This has been the most strategic part of my program, and it really works. I've got clients to this day still coming up saying, Rick, if I had to do a 3rd workout, I wouldn't fit it in. I couldn't do it. I don't have the time. I don't particularly like exercise. So I found over the last decade, anyone can fit 2 workouts in a week. And this strategy again, has been extremely successful. And as importantly, when I give them the science behind it, and I explain that these 2 workouts, why they work, and because of protein synthesis, then they're hooked. And then when they start seeing results right away, of course, they're really hooked then. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, Dr. Sonic. Okay, let's learn how one specific exercise done just twice a week lessens the chances of seeing your patients falling. And I've got a little picture on the next slide. I actually use this for even my big guys. This is an exercise qualifier for you that it looks like it's such a simple exercise, and all my guys look at me and go, "Are you kidding?" And then when they go to perform it, they're just blown away. Here's an exercise, and this is a picture of one of my clients, Barbara. She's been with me for a year, and she's a senior. She's 67, 68 years old, and she still has a little bit of body fat to lose, but she's been with me a year, and she is extremely satisfied. She's lost a little bit of weight, but she's become amazingly strong. Her and her husband both work out together. Her balance, her coordination, her grip. She used to have hip problems, and this one exercise I'm going to discuss with you has made an amazing difference on her. So remember, everyone, that's why most of my clients like me. I'm a realist. I'm going to take you where you want to go. All the exercise is going to make you healthier and feel better and stronger, but everyone's not going to lose all the weight immediately that they want. It's a process that may take time, and because she's 67, remember, as you get older for females, estrogen levels drop, this testosterone for men. When they drop as we get older, there's an enzyme on our fats called LPL, lipoprotein lipase, and it upregulates fat storage. So that's one of the reasons it's harder as we get older. It's just hormones. We can't help it. We can control it, but we can't help it. So although you may think she still has a little bit of body fat, Barb is in amazing shape. And this is one of her favorite exercises. My seniors love it, but I use it for all age groups, especially my knee and hip clients also that have replacements. What she's doing there is not the typical step class. That's a waste of time. To step back and forth, up and down, and alternate is just more of an endurance exercise. What she's actually doing is keeping all her weight on one leg. You could call it a one-legged step up, or I call it a one-legged squat. It becomes a hip-dominant move. So she's stepping up and down, and she's barely touching the floor. Because she's not offloading on the floor with the back leg, all the weight stays up on the leg. So not only is she working the big muscles, the quadriceps, the hamstring, the glutes, but because she's on one leg, the femur wants to rotate. Any of you just try to stand on one leg, it's a shaky movement. So the small muscles up in the hips, one of them is the piriformis, golfers may know it, the doctors I'm sure know it, but these small muscles are engaged in the hip. This is a great exercise to develop stability. And yet in the gym, I see trainers having people, especially seniors, stand on these half Bosu balls, which I'm completely against them. Those should be used more for athletes. You cannot develop strength of power on an unstable surface, and beginners and new people don't need to be on them. I've seen people fall off them in the gym. I've seen broken backs. I've seen concussions. I don't know why the trainers are using them. They just want to use everything available to them, and it's not appropriate for the decondition. So this is a great exercise for hip stability. I call it a one-legged squat or a one-legged step up. And in my videos, she's actually performing this, and I explained it even more thoroughly. And on the next slide, Doctor, to show you one more client, I just want to make a point that Catherine's been with me for a year now, and on my website, she's the first testimony on there. I watched her for at least a year in the gym, walking around the gym very fast with dumbbells in her hand, just moving them up and down, doing all the things our healthcare system tells everybody. Stay active, keep moving, start walking, get a pedometer, do 1,000 steps, do 5,000, do 10,000. She said she'd been doing 10,000 steps forever, and she was bored to death, but she was disciplined enough because she plays a little tennis, and she was overweight. And she said, I got to get it off. So this is a disciplined person because she owns her own business. Kept coming in for a year. She finally spoke to me at her husband's request, and I could never get to her. I always saw her because I was too busy with clients. Within the first month, and you can see her testimony on my site, she could not believe. She's one of the few that the first month, because she was disciplined enough with 2 workouts a week with me, and she changed her eating a little, even though she's mostly a vegan, there's still ways you can clean up your vegetarian diet also. And that doesn't matter to me what diet you use, we can clean it up. Within 1 month, she had lost weight. She'll tell you she was completely not bored anymore with exercise. She actually loved it because it was invigorating. She felt strength coming right away. And these are the intangibles, especially for the doctors listening, that you really want to emphasize for your clients. So I don't know if you can tell, she's in her 50s. She really looks athletic to me. She saw her before. She really looked like what I call the pudgy Pillsbury Dough girl. So this girl, and you can see her on my site, was amazed, and she put this in a testimony on my site. So it's amazing what this program can do for somebody even in the first month. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Doctor. Okay, discover why walking regime could cause cardiovascular episode in senior patients. In the book Dr. Zani and I wrote a chapter called, walking's good for you, but not much. Again, we're driven to do what I call an activity that's not challenging enough to stimulate any adaptation by the body. Yeah, there are benefits to it. If you're in pretty good shape and you're eating and you eat too many sugars in your meal and you go walking, you're going to use some of those sugars up. Again, no stimulus. I've got seniors that can stumble and walk into the gym, but they can't squat down, they can't get out of a chair. So this recommendation to me by the healthcare system, a whole healthcare system, doesn't address the real problem today of strength and flexibility and joint integrity. So the problem with walking, it doesn't challenge the cardiovascular system, believe it or not. You see, heart attacks don't happen due to lack of endurance. They typically come about when a person's either at rest or when there's a sudden, sizable demand on the heart. They often strike, when we're lifting a heavy object, having sex, or experience an unexpected emotional blow. So for one reason or another, the oxygen supply to the heart just can't keep up with the demand or change in demand. Now, the right kind of exercise does build the heart's ability to respond effectively to these demands. You can increase both your heart's, what's called your maximal capacity, and its ability to increase its output in response to a big demand. But long duration exercise does not help you do this. In fact, it has the opposite effect by forcing the heart to become smaller and more efficient. So the body trades the ability to handle these big demands, which to me is real life, for the ability to go farther. So, and this is actually not just for seniors. This really does go for everybody. These low-intensity jogs that people do, and I'm not talking about the athlete that challenges up, but these people I see every day overweight right now, especially in this heat, jogging. They look like, I wrote an article on, they look like zombies jogging. They look miserable. Why they're jogging in the heat, I don't know why. It's doing very little for them but challenging the heart and potentially causing problems with the cardiovascular system. So I think this is a waste of time. My program in 30, 40 minutes twice a week will give them more cardiac output because remember, resistance training does stimulate the cardio system. See, we've interchanged cardio and aerobics to mean the same thing when it doesn't. Aerobics is that word we've grown up with the last 5 decades, meaning using the largest muscles rhythmically for at least 20 minutes, getting in what I call the stupid target heart rate zone. That's a waste of time because for most people, they don't know it may take 30 to 45 minutes to bring your blood sugar levels down, your glycogen stores down enough that you start using it at this level of intensity. So the walking and jogging is just not a good choice to stay in shape. And get on the running just a little bit. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm sure there's some doctors that runners that. There's so much information pouring out everywhere. If you want to really see the latest research on it, and I followed it all, and there's studies in Canada on elite level runners, on college guys. Dr. McCullough on his site just put out a comprehensive everything I've been studying. It's available. It's just a phenomenal report on the scarring of the heart, the fibrosis on the heart, just destroying part of the heart after a long run, clotting of the blood. There's just so much going on with long distance running. Long distance running, think of it, is chronic. It's chronic stress to the body, and there's just a boatload of information coming out on it. So you really want to look at that because as far as I'm concerned, we should be exercising for our health. It should be fun. It shouldn't be drudgery, and there's a lot of information out on that now. If you go to the next slide, Doctor, please. Okay. To me, the real reason the obese population doesn't exercise and how to improve compliance by not performing a couple specific tests. The real reason people aren't coming in is just the obese populations, they're just being overwhelmed with the amount of information out there. We've overcomplicated exercise, what I call for the non-athlete overweight patient or client. They don't know how much or what kind or how much time to spend at it. And remember, time is still the most relevant factor to getting people that aren't athletes and just want to do this for general health and fitness to get them involved. Another point I always make, keep in mind that weight loss and athletic enhancement are distinct goals. And again, we're overwhelming people in health clubs. I see it every day. Dr. Grazani, we talk about it all the time. Watching them bring in people who are out of shape and overwhelming them with exercises that are athletic or skillful or too demanding, exercises that require too much balance. We're sending the wrong messages to the overweight market at home with shows like The Biggest Loser and the insanity type programs that are more for athletes. Again, I see these trainers actually driving people right back out the door by overwhelming them. They don't realize that a push-up isn't just a push-up for an overweight person. I've seen a gentleman recently, probably in his 50s, carrying 20 extra pounds around his waist. You know he's deconditioned. I assume with my clients that if they're overweight, out of shape, that the integrity of the joints is poor, their muscular strength is gone, their endurance is gone. So push-up takes a lot of strength. It takes joint integrity. It means that in a horizontal position, they have to be in a plank position. That means the muscles on the back, the spinal erectors, have to support the spine, and they're not strong enough. So the shear forces on the vertebrae are terrible. For a lot of people, everyone say it's painful. So they're not thinking, because trainers have I call it an inherent handicap. Most of them are young, they're in shape, and they come from athletic backgrounds. And all they know is go, 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 just push, push, push. They're not thinking. They don't have experience with this population. It's terrible. They're pushing right back out the door. And again, to promote jogging for the overweight, this low intensity, long duration in the heat, well, to me it's almost criminal. But we've associated running with fitness for way too long. So we're actually raising the anxiety level of potential clients and patients. I mean, with all this information overload, with the thought that they've got to be in the gym 5-6 days a week, that they've got to start pushing themselves right away. There's no transition with most of these programs. And for the doctors, I'm going to throw something out to you. The other problem is, and if you want to improve compliance by performing these tests, I know for you, you want to document, you got to have accountability. And this is true. And I did this in the past, in the beginning with my clients when I was a young trainer. I'd document, I'd weigh, I'd measure, I'd put these elaborate diets out for the people. And what happens, you know, half of them, more than half, did stick with the program more than 4 or 6 weeks anyway. So I was wasting my time for the first thing. But I realized after talking this last decade with thousands of obese people, do you know that most of my clients right now, I never weigh them, and most of them still won't let me do it. So I have a suggestion. 1 month, 4 weeks is nothing in time. We know that. If you were to start a program or you have a program, and I guarantee if you advertise no weighing, no measuring, and you focus on just the intangibles of being healthy, more energy, strength, stability, flexibility. You know, women more than men are very conscious of their clothes, and they're going to notice it immediately in their clothes anyway. But the problem is the anxiety that people have. I know people do not come to health clubs, and I've been telling the managers clubs, simply because they don't want to be prodded. They're embarrassed to be weighed. I mean, what overweight person needs to be told they're overweight? So my goal in the beginning is to develop a rapport with them, to help them immediately, to talk about the intangibles, and they love that. Listen, I've had a lady recently sitting out in the parking lot for a half hour having anxiety attacks. It was a referral by a doctor. She was calling friends, asking them whether she should go in. For some reason, she thought I was going to treat her like The Biggest Loser. You know, I mean, it's a shame, and it happens all the time. So I've found by not performing these tests in the beginning, and what's 1 month? Believe me, if our emphasis is on what we really need to do, developing rapport, becoming their friend, and helping them with small changes, and then after a month, especially for docs, and I understand you want to document this, especially if this is really a serious problem, if they're pre-diabetic, diabetic, but 4 weeks is nothing in time, and if you develop this rapport, it may be easier. But let me make a point on that. So many of my clients, even after many months, still don't want me to weigh them. They're that self-conscious. Can you imagine if I'd asked them to do it in the beginning? I might lose clients because they're going to tell other people. So this is real important. Most people, most new trainers and clients just don't have a clue of the anxiety that most Americans, the total population, has about starting an exercise program, about stepping foot in a gym. And this can change everything for them. So you might, again, experiment with marketing that actually makes a point to eliminate the weighing and prodding and measuring initially.
Okay.
So let's go to the next slide, Doctor, please. So how do we help patients develop a realistic goals and effortlessly stick with the program? The next slide, Doctor. As they say, it takes 21 days to create a habit, and I start little small things in the beginning for people, but I always try to start with this new mindset that we've been talking about through this whole session here. I constantly get them to quit obsessing with the scales. In fact, one of the things I do the first month, those first 4 weeks, is I'll plead with them, please, if nothing else, don't look at the scales. Do you want to live your life that way? And as we all know, it's about losing fat and not weight anyway. So I constantly reinforce this. Let's focus on these small things we're going to do in the beginning. You know, don't focus on the diets. Let's get away from counting calories. Let's make some small strategic changes. Let's focus on what you really want, which is fat loss and not weight loss. And let's focus in the beginning. This is my mindset for my clients, and I write it out for them. Let's focus on 2 workouts weekly. So then, let's go to the next slide, Doctor, please. Then I break it down a little bit more. Well, I got a slide on the fat because I have the last slide talks about the fat. I use this a lot also because, again, you've got to impress on them. If they lose 5 pounds, it's amazing the difference in the way someone looks with just 5 pounds, but yet if they lose 5 pounds of muscle, especially women that are pear-shaped, and I see this all the time, people have lost weight, they look terrible because they're losing muscle, not the fat. The body's maintaining fat, or even more in the hips for a lot of women, it makes them look even worse. So I reinforce constantly that 5, 10, 15 pounds of fat in a few months, they will look different. No, they won't see the number that they think they should lose on the scales, but it really works. I'll give you one story. I had a girl recently, just had a baby, young girl, her husband's a doctor, and when she came to me immediately after 6 to 8 weeks, as soon as she could start exercising, because I had worked with her before, she said, Rick, okay, I need to lose 20 pounds. And this was an exact number. She said, so I can get back in my clothes. And I said to her, I looked at her from my experience, I said, I guarantee we're going to lose 10 pounds you fit into all the clothes. She lost 10 pounds, almost exactly. It worked out perfect for me, but almost exactly she fit in all the clothes. Because I make a point to all my clients, very strong point. I said, training with me, it's going to be all about losing fat, not muscle. And I said, I guarantee you're going to lose less weight with me than with any other trainer because our focus is going to be on the fat, and you're going to look better. Okay, the next slide, Doctor, please. So I break it down again in a little bit more detail. This is what I do. I talk to them about a 21-day, and that's that first, the old adage, 3 weeks creates a habit. You can talk to 1 month or 3 weeks, and I talk 1 year ago. That 21-day or that 4-week focus is just what we talked about. If they can't make these small changes in the 4 weeks, then there's no need to do all this extensive documentation because it means they don't have enough discipline to even do these small changes. Now, my 1 year goal for clients is realistic. I'm going to talk to them and say, listen, if you lost just a pound a month, I mean, that's still 12 pounds, and if it was just fat, they're going to look different. But it's realistic to lose a pound a week. That is a realistic number. If they were to lose a pound a week, can you imagine 52 pounds? Again, of fat. This is the big difference that I impress on my client. Not just weight. Anybody can lose weight if they obsess on the scales and exercise too much and don't eat the right foods. They're going to lose muscle. That's not what they're after. So I simplify it. Here's my goal the first month. Let's make these small changes. And what are the small changes? I ask them to eliminate the sodas. Now, if they can't eliminate them all, I'm not going to be that aggressive. I want to make small changes for these clients and reinforce that they're doing a great job. If they've been drinking 5 sodas and they drop it down to 1, that's still good. But I emphasize the drinks are the worst of everything they're doing because of the high fructose corn syrup today. And the fruit drinks, the sweet tea, and especially the sport drinks are just as bad today. And, of course, they're being marketed to the kids also, and the kids are obese, unfortunately, also. My others, I'll ask them to eliminate the starches just 4 or 5 evenings a week. Because if somebody, is used to have some potatoes once in a while, and you tell them they just can't have it, well, you know what's going to happen. You're going to lose them as a client, or they're going to lie to you like they used to me when I was first starting. So I'm realistic about this. Once they get off the starches, it's so easy. I haven't had baked potato, rice, pasta at my meals at home in a long time. My wife and I, when we go out, sometimes I go out with Dr. Zani, and that's our evening meal. He'll tell you when we'll have some bread and everything because it tastes good. But I don't miss it when you prepare the vegetables and when you prepare the zucchini or the yellow squash and mushrooms and onions right. You'll never miss them again. And of course, you're going to tell them, I know, that to eat whole foods again and adding back the good fats, because the fats are going to make them feel fuller. They got to watch the amount of them, but the fats at every meal will have them satisfied. That's the difference. And if somebody is hurting on a diet, if they're hungry, they're not going to stick with it. We're going to talk about the diets a little bit. I mean, the meals. I like them to have 3 substantial meals. This is another area I could elaborate on. I know we don't have a lot of time, but 3 substantial meals mean a good-sized meal will keep your blood sugar levels constant for up to 4 or even 5 hours before going into gluconeogenesis or breaking down muscle or other organs for energy. For a lot of my clients over the years, I still use what Dr. Nagarjani used in the book, and you keep hearing small meals throughout the day. And I use that for my pre-diabetic, diabetic, or people that aren't used to having a substantial meal. They just can't do it, or they're used to not having breakfast. I'm going to have them have those small meals, break it down so the blood sugars do stay constant. But I try to get them away from that, because the problem with the snacks, it's just too easy to eat too much throughout the day that are bad snacks. The yogurts today are nothing but sugar. They're just candy, and these snacks will keep increasing insulin throughout the day. That means they're never going to get at the fatty acids. So add snacks only if they really need it for your patient or client. And of course, again, the focus of this program, let me tell you, I'm still blown away. I know it's hard to believe, but this has been the most strategic part of my program, Dr. Ghazani will tell you, simply because it works. Most people that we're going to deal with, most of the American population, are only in this to be healthy. They want to be more fit. They're never going to be in the gym 4 or 5 days a week. The stats are less than 20% of the population exercises. And most of the people in the gym right now are people that are athletes anyway, or halfway on the road to fitness. You only see a token amount of overweight people, even though health clubs advertise that they're there for the obese market. They're not getting them for all the reasons we just spoke about, the anxiety attacks. So again, this is the reverse psychology that I just can't believe works. But here's the next thing. For the last 10 years, in this last few years, I'm working with even athletes that can't believe that I work with them twice a week. I've got a guy right now, 300 pounds, ex-boxer in his 30s. I've got his bench press up to heavier than he's ever did in college, and I'm not even focusing on it. And here's one of the reasons why I've deciphered on my own through all my investigative work and experimenting and documenting. We have mostly in the past, and we still do as athletes, overtrain. And it's a shame what they're doing to the kids these days. And I found by challenging the body with acute stress, short and sweet, short challenging workouts, and in my program there's a lot to it. It's the volume that's kept to a certain point that's really working for this program. By keeping the volume down allows the intensity to go up. By keeping the volume down, you're not going to be in an extreme catabolic state. So what's working is the 2 workouts a week done with my program are very stimulating. And by having all the days off, by the next workout, the body is 100% completely recovered. They're not in a catabolic state. And what this does allows for each workout to be optimized. It's blowing me away, even at my age, Dr. Zanitari. I do 3 workouts because I want a little bit more out of it. And I always impress my clients that I'm not trying to impress them with what I'm capable of doing, but if what I'm capable of doing, it can inspire them with only 3 workouts. That's what it's all about. So this workout, this program, it is simply phenomenal. It simply works. It's the whole program. It's the reverse psychology. 2 workouts, the small changes, talking to them, getting them, what did I say in the beginning? Once they grasp that it's all about how foods affect hormones, then they can put exercise into perspective. Simple as that. What's on my next slide, Dr. Lonnie? See if I can remember. Get going on it. And again, I shouldn't have to tell everybody the high fructose corn syrup, that was a bottle of, is the worst for everybody. We're finding so much out about it. It's the big culprit today. It's in all our drinks. It's in every food. It's in bread. We know it. So it's so pervasive. Remember, if you haven't been following, high fructose corn syrup has to be processed by the liver. That's why this big false message that, oh, eat the high fructose corn syrup doesn't spike your blood sugars. That's because it all has to go to the liver first to be processed. So much information out there on that, and you can research that. I'm sure most of you have. It's just destroying America today, along with the polyunsaturated fats. Okay, now we'll try the next slide, Dr. Sani. Thank you. All right. Did I go over my allotted time, Doctor?
You did great, Rick. I really appreciate it. I want to let everyone know that you know, not only has Rick been an inspiration for both my wife and I, but for many of my patients, the information that he has went over this evening was something that I unfortunately for a while really what I call disagreed and kind of fought with. I'm 56 years old, and Rick hasn't said it, but he's 60 years old and excellent shape. But myself, I was brought up kind of in what I call the musclehead world, when I, did the whole typical workouts, that bodybuilders do, and I really fought this philosophy for the working out 2 days, and I was still into the calorie counting and stuff like that. And when I took his information and finally hook, line, and sinker, accepted it and utilized it, I saw substantial improvements, and it's just really made a huge difference in my fitness, my wife's fitness, and obviously for the doctors who are and the health professionals who are listening this evening. The patients that I've referred has been just a lifesaver for so many people. But I'm not gonna. Rick has done an excellent job in really going over everything. I wanted to let everyone know that Rick has a couple of things that take advantage of. Number one, you see the email there. If you have a question, feel free to send Rick, as many questions as you really want to have answered. And we have over around 550 people on tonight's call or the webinar, excuse me. So, but even that being said, please feel free to send Rick any of your questions. If there's anything that needs to be clarified, do that. Rick has a website called 2 Days to Fitness. Rick, if you don't mind, I'm not going to go to the website, but when people do go to 2 Days to Fitness, what exactly do you have if people want to go to the next, I guess, take the next step, and if they want to learn more about your program, what is it that you have to offer?
Well, they can go and opt in, of course, to our free book chapters, which will give them a little gist of the book. But I put together a 4 DVD video set where I explain all this in more detail. There's 2 hours of the knowledge part of it, but then I put together a 90-minute video presentation. Each of the exercises that I do, that I perform, the warm-ups, and explain each of them. Then I've walked through a complete workout with a couple of my clients. Some of them are seniors, some are 50, some are younger. And again, the program's very in-depth. I didn't touch base on the fact that I have a very strategically sequenced warm-up with my program, and this is one of the keys to the success of my program. Most people that are overweight, out of shape, we've all heard that athletes need to warm up, but I have a very strategically sequenced dynamic warm-up. It has made all the difference for this program because it allows for a transition into these few challenging sets that anyone can do at any fitness level. It not only transitions them physiologically, but psychologically. So it's an excellent program. And again, I don't want to talk about the price and everything. I wanted to get into the knowledge of it. But for the price, less than one of my training sessions, or less than any trainer around the country, for 1 hour, I've got all this information out there for you. So take a look at the website. I've got a lot of free articles on there. I've got a recipe for my breakfast bars. For those of you that have a hard time having breakfast, I make them, I cut them up. I've been making them for years. All my clients love them. You put them in baggies, put them in the fridge. Never an excuse not to run out of the house without at least a decent breakfast that's low sugar, good fiber. It will give you some sustained energy.
Listen, I want to thank Rick so much. He did a great job, and I just really appreciate it. This has been recorded, so I'll have it ready within 24, no later than 48 hours. Rick, any final words, anything, or that you want to finish on? I just want to thank you. Is there anything you want to just conclude on?
No, I just thank you for giving me the opportunity to help
Yeah,
people. I'm on a mission, as you know. At 60 years old, this is my time to give back because I just want to help people enjoy their life more.
that's great. Well, listen, thank you, Ricky. You've done a great job.
Thank you,
And
sir.
and listen, everyone, have a great evening. And wherever you are on the world, you may be waking up or going to sleep. But again, we just thank you. And please take advantage of contacting Rick and taking a look at the site. Take care, everyone. Good night.